Today, we're doing another GameCube mod. It is the Cube ODE, aka GC Loader. Here I have a DOL 101 model that does not read games. Many times on and off camera, I have fixed disk drives on GameCubes. This one, I just cannot get to work no matter what I do. I've replaced all the capacitors, I've just adjusted the laser. I think the motor's dead. Something's wrong with it. So this is a really good candidate for one of these things. Otherwise, not to spoil my review of this thing that you can watch on the main channel if you haven't already, probably the top link in the description, I don't know. I like Pico Boot or any other mod that doesn't get rid of the disk drive. Because while, let's be real, most people aren't going to legally back up their games the correct way. They're just going to download a bunch of ROMs from the internet, and that's fine. I'm not here to judge. I just don't want Nintendo to sue me. But once you do this, or if you just don't have a working disk drive or whatever, I don't know how you back up the games at all, other than finding them online. I mean, I guess if you have a Wii, then you could back them up there. But then it's like, why do you have a modded GameCube? You could just mod your Wii and yeah. Anyways, this is a very interesting mod, and I don't know how worth it is, but I've never done it before. So I'm gonna dive in. I'm gonna show you how to do it, show you how easy or maybe it's harder than I think, and we'll mess around with it a little bit. I'm also going to reshell this because this thing is disgusting. Look at that yellowing. Man, it's gross. I will show you everything you need to know, and I'm going to assume most people aren't going to do a full reshell, so I'm just going to speed through the rest of the parts that you don't need to see. But everybody is going to need to disassemble these 4 screws, remove them, partially disassemble your GameCube. And it is the bigger game bit screw, the 4.5 millimeter game bit screw. And there's those 4 out. Put those off to the side. And then we can lift this bad boy up. It's quite dusty in here. I mean, shocker. The thing is gross on the inside and out. But we can remove the back plate. We can spin this around. We can remove the controller ports, which technically you probably don't need to like actually remove this ribbon cable, but might as well get it out of the way. And I know that a lot of people are going to be interested in this because it is solderless. However, assuming you haven't done anything with this battery or nobody has done anything with this battery, it would be good to replace it. So I'm going to do that here. Obviously, it's up to you whether or not you want to do it, but this is for like clock events. So if you play Animal Crossing or any other game that uses the internal game clock, you're going to want this to work. But if you're playing something like Mario Kart or whatever, it probably doesn't matter. Okay, these 4 small Phillips 1 screws out. They are very long, but there's only 4 of them. And then we can just pull those out like that. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 Phillips head, Phillips 2 screws underneath, or that we need to remove the disk drive. It's a lot, I know. It may be slightly different because you might be using a 001, so there might be 1 extra on the back, I don't know. But you got 5 on the side, 5 on the other side, and 4 or 5 on the back. I think it's still 4 on the back. And then we can just lift it up and boom. Before I go any further, I'm actually gonna go grab a vacuum and get rid of all this dust because there's a lot of dust in here. Okay, I believe this is all the teardown that you need to do this. But again, I'm going to tear it down further. You'll be watching a time lapse of me doing that right now. And I'm going to fully swap out the shell because again, this one is gross and disgusting. And I don't feel like putting in the like hours and hours of TLC that this shell would need to, get it back to looking any bit decent. Wow, 101 models are so much easier to disassemble. But before we go into the GC loader business, for those who care, I'll show off how you replace the battery. And if you don't care, I guess like skip 30 seconds ahead or something. I don't know. All right. I like to just put a little bit of flux on both of those. Get my tweezers underneath the battery, push it down while I put my iron to it. Comes out no problem. Get a little solder wick in there, remove all the old solder. And then I like to get these battery holders. They'll be linked down below. You can just get another tab battery just like the original, but this is going to be easier down the road. You can just stick this end in the positive, and then you do need to bend the pin a little bit as you're putting it back in. It's just like slightly bigger than the distance between the holes. And it should be as simple as adding solder back to both pins. And then I like to let it cool off for a little bit before I put the battery in because, heat and batteries. But it is really that fast, that simple, that easy. Yes, you have to solder, but it's a pretty easy soldering job, all things considered. And before we screw it back in, pop that in there, positive side facing up, put the 2 screws back in, and we're ready to go. Okay, now I'm actually going to put the GameCube off to the side, probably clean up the mat a little bit. Then we'll get these boxes out. Now, I believe you can just get this and be on your merry way. This itself is $50 on AliExpress at least. And if you want to get the attachment so it looks a lot cleaner inside of your console, you can spend an extra $22 apparently. That's what I did, of course. There are instructions for this with like written instructions. So if you think I'm too dumb or dull or something, oh, well, I guess that's good to know. You can just go by this. But one other thing we're going to have to do to disassemble that I didn't realize for some reason is we do need to remove this metal plate here. So these are Phillips 1 bits, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. They are going to be in a different spot for 001 users, but should still be 6 of them. And then we can just pop that off. This is still a bit dusty. Just wipe that off. And we can take the drive, the new optical drive emulator, out of its bag. And this is it in all its glory. It's got a little USB-C for updating, I think, and a full-size SD card reader. Now, this does work with any model, but it looks like the screws, at least the 3 screw holes, are lined up for 001 models because only these 2 line up here. That's fine. We really don't need this third one screwed in. I don't think there's anything to really worry about here. So we'll line it up like this, but we'll have to flip it over and we'll use these screws here. They give us 4. There are only 3 screw holes and only 2 of them will work for me. These are still Phillips 1 bits. And I'll start with this one, and I won't screw it down fully just so I can get the second one hopefully lined up. There we go. And then I'll screw in the other one all the way. Boom. It's that simple. Now we could just put it all back together. No problem. But again, we've got this whole mess. So it'll come with these 3 plastic pieces, and then we get a full-size SD card extender, which basically just means it will plug in here and then it'll come out here one way or another. I'm honestly not sure how to assemble this because they don't really tell you, but I'm going to assume that this bag of screws is all of the screws we need. We're going to start with this little piece, slotting our SD card in like so, or at least our SD card reader. And then we screw it down on both sides. And then we can slot this in there and press down. I guess maybe do that first with the plastic piece, because that is a bit of a tough angle. But I still managed to do it with my screwdriver at least. And then I'm going to assume we need to push it out of the way like this. And then we can screw this down a whole bunch of different ways. Oh my goodness. There's a screw in here, screw over here, screw right there, and a screw right there. Okay. And then I assume we can slot this in like this. And then again, there's no screw post here, but there are 3 other ones. And I'm not sure. I'm assuming we still have to use these. And I'll do the one that lines up right here, like that. Again, you don't want to screw it down all the way because this can still wiggle around and we want to lock it down in another spot. So I'm going to choose the farthest opposite side, which would be over here. Then we can lock that one down and then tighten that one. And that should be good. I'm out of their screws and I don't know if these screws would even fit in the other ones or really do anything. It's doing something. Might as well. And I think that's the only other screw hole that would do anything for me because it's probably meant for 001s, but it still works fine with a 101. All right, from here, this is looking pretty darn good. I think we can bring our GameCube back over here and we can lock this down. We'll start with these 4 in the front by the memory card slots. Screw them down. There we go. And then we can screw all of these million screws back in. I will go ahead and time lapse through that as well. I'm noticing that this plastic piece over here kind of gets in the way of this. And with a recent GameCube video I did on the second channel, the channel you're watching this on, it messed with my power button, and the power button being slightly off made it so it just like got stuck in the down position. So I'm really hoping that's not the case here, but we can plug the controller port back in and then we can pop that in. Boom. Pop our back plate in and maybe where our first problem is there. Okay. I was able to kind of force it in. We'll see how that goes. And hopefully we should be able to put this back on. Always lift your lid. I guess it doesn't really matter here because the reason why you lift your lid as you put the top on is because if you don't, you could easily break the closed lid sensor, but it doesn't matter anymore. All right. Still nice to see how it lines up. And it is like slightly to the left a bit. So I'm going to see if I can just like kind of fudge it a little bit, but it doesn't seem like it's actually in the way at all. So that's good. Like it still let everything click into place. Just didn't give like a satisfying click like it normally does. I don't know. Maybe because there's less going on. But there is actually, this comes with new screws and those screws are pretty dingy. So I'm going to use the new screws. But we can drop our 4 game bit screws back in here. And I think we're done. I just need to put my new jewel on. And there we are. That is complete. But we have some software stuff to mess with. So we can take an SD card. I actually have a micro SD card because it's what I typically need, because you usually need one of these guys, one of these guys, or one of these guys to go along with stuff like Pico Boot. And we're not actually going to use that here. This is not a new mod. This is a like 5-year-old mod at least. I'm very late to the party. But anyways, I'm going to be using a micro SD card in an adapter for this. And let's go over to the computer and load up the firmware. So for the software side of things, you are going to want to go to the Swiss GitHub that I'll have linked down below. We can go to the latest release, which apparently is last week, and we can download the Swiss 7-zip. Then we can extract it, go down to the ISO folder, and then you'll want to pick the ISO for your region, which in this case, I have a Japanese GameCube, so I'm going to use the Japanese one, the NTSC J ISO, and I'm going to drag that into my root of my SD card and rename that to boot. You got to spell boot correctly though. Then you can go to your legally obtained ROMs, rewind to the conversation we had earlier, but I'm just going to drag a couple of them in here for example's sake, because it's already going to take a minute. 5 gigabytes worth of games, just dragging them to the root of my SD card. You could put it in a folder if you want to. See in like 3 minutes. Then we should be able to just drop our SD card in there. Don't actually have to close it since there's no closed lid sensor. And because this is AV only and I don't have an HDMI mod on this, I'm just going to point my phone camera at the screen. Sorry for the quality. I'm going to just turn this on, and it does do the whole GameCube intro sequence, which is nice. And then it pops up to the settings. I really don't know what the best settings are for any of this, so I'm just gonna hit save and exit at the base configuration, and boom, here we are. We can boot back into Swiss, I guess, or we can just pick any of the games that we loaded up. We can do Super Mario Eclipse, which is a ROM hack of Super Mario Sunshine. I've never actually played that, but I made a video going over how to set that up because a subscriber asked. So if you ever have a question that I could answer in a video, let me know. If you have any video ideas, hit me with it. Sometimes I do it. I don't do it every time, but sometimes I do. Anyways, I'm going to load up Super Monkey Ball. Why not? And it's that easy. I don't have a memory card in here. I apologize. Press the B button, and we're on our merry way. Honestly, not super sure what I need to be showing off right now because it's like just a optical drive emulator. That's all it is. So like, I don't know. At this point, would I be just reviewing Swiss or what? I mean, at this point, I'm literally just playing the game because I love Monkey Ball 1 and I missed it. Man, I'm out of practice apparently. Yeah, I'm gonna continue. It's embarrassing, but yeah, I don't really know what else to do for this video. Do you want me to swap games? I don't know. Oh, this is my mom's favorite level. But I don't know what I'm doing. It works and it was super easy. This video was probably done 5-10 minutes ago. If you want my full thoughts, the full review is up on the main channel by the time you're seeing this. It'll be linked down below and it should be up on the screen somewhere right about now. If not, let me know in the comments. Oh, and you can buy this very GameCube at retroremaster.com. All right, bye.